I think what we have here in Hollywood is high art. It's
Party time! Margot time!
In the late 1920s, a Mexican waiter, a young wannabe starlet, and an aging actor find their lives changing and shifting as the dawn of sound cinema approaches. Babylon is a 3-hour epic filled with comedic beats, outlandish moments, excessive partying, and a large degree of energy and excitement and hype. It addresses issues around fame and stardom, desire and need, and it does so in an overly long movie that fails to maintain its pacing and energy throughout. In many ways, Babylon is a cross between Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and The Wolf of Wall Street. It's a movie that showcases the lifestyle of several Hollywood denizens, the raucous parties they attend and host, the escapades and frolics they engage in, and more. It's a movie that highlights the highs and lows of such lifestyles, delivering a message and a warning to those desiring such a thing. It's also a movie that constantly ups the ante, adding to the extravagance and the glitz and the sheer incredulity of certain events and moments. Chances are, one could imagine the most crazy and insane party ever, and Babylon would either match that imaginary party or top it. The result is a movie that is incredibly funny. The first hour and a half of Babylon is practically a comedy, with good one-liners, some silly moments and some slapstick thrown in too. It never goes too far though. While some of the events are outlandish and bizarre, the movie manages to make them seem very believable and realistic for the characters and the world it has created. An elephant showing up in the ballroom of a party, for example, feels like par for the course, and a drunken fight with a rattlesnake seems like a realistic escalation of a very exciting party. Sadly, the comedy does not last, nor does the energy and excitement and pacing of the first half of the movie. As the movie hits its second half, the drama picks up and the emotion takes over. It becomes less about experiencing the lavish lifestyle of Hollywood stardom and more about dealing with the repercussions of such a lifestyle. The movie slows down. It explores its characters more in a shifting, changing landscape thanks to the introduction of sound, and it eventually starts to drag and bore. There are still moments of humour in the final hour and a half or so, but as the movie progresses it often appears to be a series of sketches and ideas stitched together, with a loose narrative connecting them all. It's very disappointing because the first hour and a half is fantastic. It's funny, it's fast paced, it's intriguing and enjoyable, but after the fun and hijinks are over, the serious tones and themes take over and everything changes. At the centre of Babylon are the 3 leads. Brad Pitt is the aging star trying to cling to fame after a string of poorly performing movies and a struggle to adapt to sound cinema. He's great in this role, looking and sounding like a classic movie star. But we get to dive into his relationships and his personal battles too, especially towards the back end of the movie when his focus moves from fun to concern over his life and career. Then there is Margot Robbie, perhaps the best thing about Babylon. Margot is a young woman wanting to be the next big thing, a star in the making. She exudes a certain energy and charisma in this movie, one that demands all eyes be on her throughout. Helping this demand are the costumes and outfits she wears, which are often lacking in discretion. Margot is amazing in Babylon. She showcases her entire range of skills and emotions, making her character very likeable and engaging, very fun and relatable. Her role becomes especially interesting when her character has to adapt to the filming methods of sound recording, a task she struggles with and then suffers from. Then there is Manuel Torres, portrayed by Diego Calva. In many ways this character is our eyes and ears into the world of Babylon. He's the most grounded and relatable and believable character in the movie. He's a normal man, an immigrant seeking to better his position in Hollywood, rising through the ranks, starting at the bottom. His career progression is well conveyed, and his transitions are often well orchestrated. It's another instance of being the right man in the right place at the right time. He is, in certain regards, lucky. The problem with being the everyman, the normal man of this movie, is that in comparison to every other character in the movie, he's a touch boring and bland. The performance is great, especially towards the back end of the movie when he unwillingly gets involved in some bizarre, darker and scarier scenarios, but his character pales in comparison to those around him. Damien Chazelle does an admirable job at directing the movie, and thanks to his editor, it moves along briskly for the most part. Sadly, as already mentioned, the energy and pacing struggles in the second half, with slower scenes and moments, a greater emphasis on drama and emotion, and a focus on darker themes and moments too. Babylon is too long to maintain its story and energy. Had it been 45 minutes shorter, had some of the later elements been introduced earlier, it may have fared better. The score is one of the more outstanding elements of the movie. There is an upbeat, energetic jazz score throughout the movie that also plays into the story and helps explore the changing desires of Hollywood too. The score does a great deal in providing the movie its momentum, adding to the chaotic themes and moods throughout, and often feeling like a kettle on the boil, constantly building up until it crescendos. The score is fantastic, but even it struggles to aid in the final hour or so in boosting its excitement and adrenaline. Babylon is incredibly fun and zany, often hilarious and emotional. The first hour and a half of this movie is one of the best things I've seen in a long time. Sadly, at over 3 hours long, the movie does not maintain its pacing and it shifts focus onto slower, more dramatic storytelling too. As the movie progresses, it gets worse and worse, but it does end in a satisfying way, providing closure for all the key story and character points.